So let me begin by telling you about my mom. Okay, so this is my mom. Her name's Kathleen. She came to Canada when she was 16, and she came with her brother so they could both go to school and end up going to university up there. And while she was there, not at the same school, but at that time, she met my dad. And after they graduated, they married at about 22 or 23 years of age, which is scary because I'm 22 now. And 10 years later, they kind of held off a little bit, but 10 years later, they had me, so she was 32. And my mom, this is a picture from a couple years ago. She is my best friend. She is, if you guys have seen Gilmore Girls, the Lorelai-Rory relationship, it's a lot like that, except she's not 16 years older, she's 32 years older. And she's one of the strongest, most independent people I know. And she's also extremely street smart and a really good negotiator, and I've been trying to emulate that for the past 2 years. I don't think I'll ever get to that level, but she's great. But this is actually not going to be about my mom. This story is going to be about my dad. So this is my dad, Lawrence. He has been a working dad his entire life. And he is an electrical engineer. He works in Silicon Valley, does the semiconductor industry stuff. And when I was little, I was about 3-4 years old. My parents decided to separate. And so during that time, I would go and spend time with my dad on the weekends and have Wednesday night dinners with him. And before, I think it's kind of blurry actually right now, but before he actually got his own apartment, I remember that he would come home from work and I was trying to go to sleep, and this happened all the time. And I would hear the garage door open. So I'd bounce out of bed and be like, "Daddy's home! Daddy's home!" So I'd go downstairs and end up sleeping really late, which is why I am such a night owl right now. But, okay, yeah. So the fun began when I was little, when he brought me to Disneyland. So as many of you know, Disney freak right here. So he started it. And a couple of years later, my parents actually decided to get back together and see if they could make things work. And because the reason why they waited 10 years to have me was because they were having a really rocky marriage. And but they did end up deciding to have me. And a couple of years later, he came back, and he would come home from work at this time. So I was about 6 years old now, 5-6 years old. And I would hear the garage door open, and I'd be doing my thing, playing, doing homework, whatever. And then I would go, "Oh, he's home." So I'd pick a spot in the house, hide there, and it was different every single night. So as soon as he came through the garage door into the house, I would yell, "Hi, Daddy!" And it was his job to come and find me. Now, most of the time, he did not know where I was, and most of the time succeeded in jumping out and scaring him, and that was the whole game that we played for a while. And about a year later, I want to say actually, so I was about 8 years old. He started working at this company that took up a lot of his time. He probably worked 15 to 18 hours a day. I got used to him not coming home for dinner. It just became a normal thing. Wasn't really that big of a deal. And I also got used to him showing up late to a lot of my things. So I would have piano recitals, dance performances, plays at school, and told my dad to be there at a certain time, probably would have been half an hour late. And so I remember sitting at piano recitals and, hoping that he would show up in time for my own performance. So this job took up, obviously, a lot of time, and he was at this company for 8 years. And so that was between the time I was 8 years old to 16 years old. And those were obviously the terrible adolescent years. And my mom and I spent obviously a lot of time together with my dad not being around as much. So she would take me to my doctor's appointments, schedule everything for me, cook for me, make lunch for me, and I got used to it. I wouldn't see my dad until maybe 11, 12 at night. Sometimes he wouldn't come back until 2 a.m. And so in the middle of those years, when I was about 13, 14, that was when hormones were kicking in, and he would complain a lot that I wasn't communicating with him, I wasn't telling him things that were going on in my life, and he verbatim said many times, "You have an attitude problem." And so this is actually, I forgot to click this earlier, but yeah, this is a picture of me when I was 4 years old on my birthday. So this is around the time right before my parents separated. And in January 2009, so this was in high school. Backtrack a little bit. In high school, my parents decided to actually separate a second time. And it was a really odd time for me. My grandpa had just passed away when I was in 8th grade. And I remember freshman year, my mom went back to Canada, where all my family lives right now, and to take care of some stuff. And they were separated, so they're not officially divorced. But my dad, came up to me and he said, "Hey, Veronica, is it okay if I introduce you to, someone that I'm seeing right now?" And I was like, I really don't know how to answer this question. Let me think about it. And eventually he was like, "Please, just, I just want to take her to Disneyland. Let's go to Disneyland together." So we went to Disneyland, and I was like, I really don't feel easy about this. My, mom doesn't really know, and he didn't want me to tell my mom, and it was really weird. So after we came out from Disneyland, I didn't really say anything to my mom, but she actually found out because there were 3 drawings that we did at Disneyland, and they were all stuck in my dad's bag. And she found a third drawing, and she was cleaning out his backpack and realized there was a third person with us. Now, she was not really surprised by this because my dad has a history of doing this, even before I was born. So she obviously was livid because she was like, "We are not legally divorced. What do you think you're doing? Why would you put your daughter on the spot and ask her something like this?" And so that was what instigated the second separation. But in January of 2009, my parents still took me to travel from time to time, and just to see the world, I guess. But during this year, this was the summer that I had my jaw surgery. So it wasn't for an accident or anything. It was just it was planned for about 10 years. I had a crossbite, but this was towards the end of the healing stage, and my parents were like, "Hey, let's stay kind of local, go back to Canada for a little bit. Let's go visit the Maritimes, which is where New Brunswick, Prince Edward Island, Nova Scotia are." So this is the summer we went. That's us there eating lobster. And we stopped by this place on the street. And it was on this trip that we were riding this ferry from one province to another. And my dad said to me, he's like, "Hey, Veronica, I need to talk to you about something. Can we step outside?" So I said, "Sure." He brought me outside on the deck of the ferry, and he said, "So you remember Leona?" Leona was the woman that he was seeing during the time that my parents were separated. And I said, "Yes." And he said, "Well, last year he himself had a surgery, and he was like, as I was recovering, she came to visit me, and he was not living at home, too. So he said, she came to visit me, and I made a really big mistake. And he said she got pregnant and decided to keep the baby because she had always wanted to have one. And this was still during the time when, again, my parents this entire time had never been divorced, so they're still separated. And I didn't say anything. It's not really me to really lash out like that right away, so I kind of internalized it a little bit. Partially not surprised, sadly enough. At the same time, I think I just didn't know how to react. And so I didn't realize it at the time. I didn't know how I was going to take it for the next while to come. But it did take a huge toll on us because we already were not close from those 8 years that he wasn't really there. And I was going to read this and I forgot. But let me read you an excerpt from something I wrote for a paper last year. And I titled it, Dear Dad, I wish you could have always been there for me. So over the subsequent 2.5 years, the incident did take a toll on the already weak relationship I had with my dad. During that period, there was a constant push and pull between me wanting to mend our relationship and me pushing him away. How could he have done this to me, I think to myself. I could see that he was really trying to make an effort to spend time to get to know me, but it was already 8 years too late. So time and time again, he pleaded for me to get past his mistake and meet his son. His name was Brandon, and because quite simply, it would just make my dad's life a lot easier. I knew he was getting a second shot to be the father of Brandon that he wasn't able to be for me. Although I was fine with that, I didn't want him to think that his mistake was just a small deal, so I built up a wall that I refused to break down. I can't see him, Dad, because I'll be reminded of what you did to me. Do you realize that I already think about this every day? It took me a long time to sort out my emotions and see that while I didn't need to forget what had happened, I could still forgive him. So giving forgiveness a chance would not only make him feel better, but would in turn help me as well. And so this is Brandon. I had been trying to make my dad feel the same way that I had been feeling, but keeping that up wouldn't have helped with my attempt to rebuild the father-daughter relationship we had had years ago. So not this past summer, but the summer before, in August of 2012, which was almost 3 years to the date that he told me about him, I decided this is actually the summer after journeyman semester for me. So I was taking a class that semester, interpersonal relations with Dr. Barone, if any of you guys are psych majors. And a big topic that was talked about towards the end of that semester was forgiveness. And I thought to myself, I've always thought I was a really forgiving person. I don't hold grudges. I didn't realize that I had been for a long time. And part of the lesson from that class was, try to have yourself forget. You don't need to forget what happened, but allow yourself to forgive whoever it is that has made whatever incident occur. And so, because it would just not only be easier for the other person, but in terms of your personal health, it would help a lot. And so this is something I thought about for a while, and it took me a few months to be like, okay, maybe I should give this a chance, because this child was clearly an innocent product of what I thought at the time irresponsible adults, and he didn't deserve for me to completely shut, someone that was blood related to me, because I love children. I wouldn't want to do something that would hurt a child that was related to me. And so this was our trip to Disneyland this past summer. And this was us at the USC Cal game. I actually had him, because we could hear the band playing all across the other side of the stadium, right? And there were a couple people from SC that were sitting near us, actually, and they would obnoxiously yell our cheers from our games. and I said to Brandon, Brandon, I want you to say, "Here we go, Trojans, here we go." So, wearing his cow cap, he was like, "Here we go, Trojans, here we go." And it was really funny because my dad was like, "Oh my God." He went to Cal for grad school, so yeah. But actually, let me go get something real quick. So a couple of weeks ago, I turned 22, and I got this voice message. Oh no, I have no network here. Wait, let me try again. Oh. Wait, okay, one last time. Is it working? Maybe not. Okay, well, in the voicemail, I got a voicemail and it said, "Hi, Veronica. Hi, happy birthday." And I could hear my dad in the back go, "Belated birthday." Like, "Happy belated birthday." And my dad said, "Do you want to say anything else?" And he's like, "No, that's it." He just turned 5, I think, yeah. So that's my brother. I'd always wanted a brother or sister. There he is. Thank you.